Hi, and welcome to another episode of Integrated Awakenings. It's me, Maria, and today we are talking about Akasha, or the void, or primordial emptiness. And this is hands down one of my favorite elements. Like, Akasha and fire is up there, and if you're familiar more with like the four elemental energies, so think of Akasha as soul or spirit, or just so if you imagine the four elements, like for example the wheel of like directions or life, it's the circle. It's that space that allows the dance of the elements, even in the yin yang symbol. So in Taoism, this is called the Wu Wei. So it is the emptiness that holds the dance of duality. So basically, if you're into a lot of non-dual philosophy, metaphysics, quantum mechanics, this is your jam. This is your element. That is something you would want to meditate on. And I feel like one of the best ways to really kind of pitch the primordial darkness to you is that a lot of our universe is made up of dark energy, right? Even physicists prove this. Like, it's around 95%, right? So anything that you think is here, right, that's just a bunch of particles. That's like a small percentage of what really is. What you can touch is sensation based, but it's essentially empty. Even your skin is empty, right? Even things that you think you can hold, there's just a bunch of atomic structures that's allowing it to be perceived, but essentially there's so much more emptiness. And there is almost this holiness to this emptiness because it is so pregnant with possibility. Only in that emptiness can the dance exist, right? So I feel like a lot of people who might get into healing, right, or approach things from a love and light perspective, could feel a little alienated by this energy. Like, why are you presenting spirit as a black void? Why are you so emo? Why is that so metal? Like, why are we lauding the cave? You know, isn't it called awakening? So why are you like closing your eyes into darkness, right? It's like I understand the argument, but the thing is, once you get to like more advanced spiritual practices, for example, darkroom technologies, or even like sense deprivation, float tanks, right? There is this quality within a pure darkness that allows you more access to yourself. So for example, the light of a candle is more pronounced around a really dark background. Or say you're wearing like a white outfit, unless the background is black, people can't perceive your outfit. Like, if everything was white, how can they perceive you, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that I know that people can have like a lot of loaded assumptions in terms of darkness, but I feel like when they have those assumptions and judgments, they're having almost like the shadow of the shadow. That's not what we're talking about. that's like how do I say this? It's like we're talking about the primordial death, the vacuum of vacuums, the black hole, right? And then you're talking about the dark night of the soul. You're talking about a shadow. You're not really talking about darkness, right? You're talking about shade. You're not talking about emptiness. Right, so I want you to, if you're having a hard time with like the black coding, maybe you could think about this around emptiness. Maybe emptiness, like hollowness. You know how like a flute can only be played when it's like hollow, and a cup can only be filled when there's like this emptiness to it. So it's almost like really meditating on the idea of emptied, being emptied. Because even death is like an emptying, right? Even emptying of a certain formation, incarnation, right? And then you're transitioning. So it's being emptied. Yeah. If this is still like a little finicky for you, I do want to recommend that you listen to the shadow work episode of this podcast series first before encountering this, so that we could drop a lot of judgments around like dark stuff, and then we could proceed. Yeah? Okay. So if you've already listened to that, welcome back. I'm assuming that you've returned, and the thing is, okay, let's get to it. Let's get to primordial emptiness. I do want to say that I do have a bias towards yogic perspective of this because I really like Shiva. Because when this downloaded for me in my consciousness, I was drawn to the book Adiyogi, which talks about Shiva, like the no thing. Shiva literally means nothing, right? And it talked about Shiva as both an incarnate thing, but also like an energy form. But also it had a lot of stories in terms of being the ultimate void, right? And I feel like a lot of our subconscious and a lot of our actually conscious selves as well just really attaches to stories very nicely. And I feel like Shiva's just a really good personified energy of the void. Now, I've had some friends who are drawn to other versions of the void. So, for example, Nyx, or for example, just a freaking black hole, right? So, I'm not gonna say that one's better than the other. I'm just saying I like Shiva. Now, my first experience of this energy was that I had this dream where I felt like I was tunneling to the center of centers, to the essences of essences. It was like a cubist painting that was nested into each other like a fractal. And I was just seeking for answers. Like I wanted to find the heart of things. And I was trying to guess which door was the real core. And I felt like it really, I do have a lot of dream puzzles, especially for people who follow my IG account. They would know that I always have a lot of downloads via dreams and via puzzles. And the thing is, I felt like I was gonna die if I didn't pick the right door, if I didn't open the right door. And the thing is, so I put like all my being into like, no, I want to know, show me the right door, right? And when I opened it, they showed me like this big black hole. The gravity was so strong. I felt like I was being swallowed. I felt like if I succumbed to it, I would be completely annihilated, like a deep annihilation. And they were like saying, okay, stick your hand into it, like go in. It felt like a test. It was like, okay, are you gonna go in? And I was like, oh, fuck this shit. And I stuck my hand in, right? And the thing is, after that, the scene in my dream shifted, and it was like, I had the texture of the void in my hand. Like, I think it was my left hand. And the thing is, after that, I was drawn to reading about Shiva, and then he showed up a lot in my dreams. So this tends to happen to me. So for example, I would have visions of Archangel Raphael visiting me, teaching me about architecture, or I would have Mother Mary like really doing a number on my body, showing me what a really big heart chakra looks like. So this isn't the first time I'm having this tango of like an energy teaching me something, right? This is not new to me. So this was a specific time and space where I really felt like Shiva was teaching me something. And the thing is, Shiva has a wife, like Parvati. And the thing is, in yogic principles or paths, right, there's the bhakti path, the devotee path, where because you're in love with a certain like guru energy, you're so in love that the awakening is a gift, right? It's not studied. It's not your eyes opening. It was opened for you. It was a gift, right? This is like the fastest path, but it's also like an insane path because it's love. Love is insane. I love it. So, yeah. If this is new to you as a concept, check out the water energy episode. But anyway, so there's the bhakti path, right? And there's the nanas eyes open path, meaning you're studying stuff, you're learning stuff, you're mastering stuff on your own rather than someone's teaching you, rather than holding your hand through the thing, right? Okay, so the thing is, wow, this is I've blogged about this on my IG account, but I think this is the first time I'm really like owning up to the story. But I've had like weddings where I was preparing like the whole wedding, the whole family was visiting. I didn't know who was getting married, and I felt the whole, why am I being late to my own wedding? And I'm not even dressed yet. And I was like, I was a different woman in this lifetime, and um, it was very clear that. And then when I woke up, I was like, oh shit, am I getting married to Shiva? Like, am I a consort in a way? Like, am I doing a bit of a bhakti path with him in terms of like, I love you so much, please help me, right? Or it's almost like when you marry someone and you help each other out. It's that kind of energy rather than a teacher student energy, right? So this is more of like, no, I want to marry you, right? I want to love you, right? It's really sweet. It's really flattering, actually. And the thing is that what happened after that was I would have other dreams where I would be in like a race. It's a game, right? And we're scaling a mountain, and then they're like, okay, you're paired with that guy, and we had like the harnesses, the mountain climbing gear, and I was like, oh my god, he's so buff. It's like he's so strong. It's like I'm almost embarrassed of how pathetic I am in scaling that whole wall, right? And the thing is, the moment he hooked my belt, right, he just dragged me up. He's like a lightning bolt, like shooting up, like climbing, and I was just being dragged, and I was just trying to push against the wall just so that I don't hurt myself, but I was just scrambling. And then we got into like a level plane, and then we were just resting, and I was like, okay, can we eat now? Cause we skipped lunch break because we were so busy like ascending, right? So I have a lot of dreams about climbing stuff, right? And it's always because they talk about awakening as a mountain a lot, and there's this sense of, sometimes I'd have dreams where it's like, oh, it's too fast, like we're going up too fast, and I'm scared of heights in this linear life. So it's kind of funny to me every time the spirit tests me of like, oh, you're way up, how do you feel, right? So there's this guy, so literally and then I was asking spirit of like, oh shit, is Shiva like, she was dragging me up, basically. So that's how I feel. And I feel like the first time I meditated with him, wow, this is turning out to be more personal than I thought. I thought I was gonna give y'all theory the whole time, but I guess like a personal story doesn't hurt once in a while. But anyway, the first time I meditated with Shiva, so his skin is like ash because he doesn't mind being with like the scorned people. He meditates with graves also. So and then he literally has a snake, and sometimes he has skulls, right? Yeah. He glows blue, right? He courted a lot of what would be coded as demonic energies at that time. Like a lot of basically very Jesus energy of like, oh, I'm with the sinners, right? So he's very like in Tagalog kadire. Like it was a little bit disgusting at first because it was like he was like testing me of like, oh, this is like everything that I accept. Like I accept everything. Like I accept death, I accept the ash, I accept these disgusting people. It's like I'm this too. And the thing is, what's crazy about him is that he can also do the really sublime beautiful version. That's how whole he is, that he accepts both the shit, like the quote unquote shitty, right? The scorned and the beautiful. And he doesn't even have a judgment of like what's better. He's just all possibilities, right? So the thing is, I was really scared at first when he was like showing himself to me. And the thing is, I was like, I can't, can I even handle your ashes, right? But once that was kind of okay, he's actually really friendly. You know what? Okay, I'm really approaching this as like when you have new spirit energies, what do you do with them? But the thing is, I noticed that when a new guide or a new energy is introducing itself to you, it's like the first few dates is like a test. It's like, can you handle me? It's like they show you their scariest face to like produce awe and respect, and sometimes just to test your mettle in terms of like your will of showing up. And then once that's okay, they can show up casually. So for example, Archangel, was it Michael? Yeah, Archangel Michael. At first, it was the very awe, like, you know how they say biblically accurate angels are scary? It's like, I couldn't even look at him. He was that big. He was that, like, he was on fire. I can't even, like, I just saw him in my periphery because he was too. Also, there's this thing where, you know how wooden furniture kind of has joints and there's like gaps to them, especially if like they're naturally built together, and then sometimes they pop, right, just because of the change of heat and stuff. So the thing is with like archangels, when they show up for me, they always crack my furniture. And the thing is, I have a lot of wooden furniture in my bedroom, so every time they show up, there's like sounds. So it's very if you weren't settled into your center, you would be fucking scared. So anyway, I'm just saying that the first time the archangels were like showing up for me, it was fucking scary. But after that, it's so cute. Archangel Raphael and Michael, because they're the ones I talk to a lot. Azrael sometimes as well. Azrael is also like a good death, void, energy, portal, galactic guy. Anyway, after that, the archangels are kind of show up to me very casually. Like, they can show up to me in jeans or like anime characters, because there's no attachment anymore into making me believe that's them or needing to communicate a certain kind of awe. So even the initial images is just to also Spirit also really explains this to me in terms of like dream work, in terms of like we show you those images to like reorganize your subconscious. So even these biblical images of these angels, or for example Shiva, this is just to reorient you, right? It's not really like, it's a process. It's not like quote unquote the only / accurate image. So it can evolve into something very domestic, especially if you're like super familiar with the energy already. So that's why I find it funny that I could really pinpoint, because I muscle test in terms of like, oh, was that really Shiva, right? That. And I'm like, yeah, duh, he loves mountains. He lives in a mountain. And you're mountain climbing. What do you think? So it's very, so I like it that we got casual enough that he doesn't mind being presenting himself to me as like a person. Like he doesn't need to do the bells and whistles of like being fucking scary. You know, it's like I just know that that's him, right? So this is why I'm kind of good at discerning like certain connections between people, soul groups, incarnations, because it's like once you're not attached to, like, for example, angels having wings, you're really listening to the underlying energy. You're like, oh, okay, you have a better way of actually identifying it without all of the circus works. Anyway, wow, I guess this episode is more this walks around more rather than gunning for Akasha. Okay, I see that's what we're doing. Okay, anyway, so that is my relationship with Shiva, and that is my relationship with the void. And the thing is, one of my favorite meditations for reorienting or cleansing your energy is going to a pool of light, and it's like usually a golden bathing yellow light of your original source blueprint energy, right? So I would always like sink into it and like marinate in it, bathe in it. And the thing is, once I got to know Shiva, he would allow me to bathe into a void. Like so it's the same pool, but instead of like this glowing yellow orb, right, of this like brightness across all directions, dimensions, versions, right? This was like gravity, emptiness, spaciousness, nothingness across. It was like the opposite of each other, right? And the polarity bitch in me is like, oh my god, it's like perfect. It's perfect because if you're sealing like like this liquid light, of course its twin would be just this vacuum of emptiness, right? And the thing is, I feel like there are dredges, attachments, patterns of ours that a teacher of mine taught me this. Some of our patterns want to surrender into the light, and then some of them want to be surrendered into the void. So there's no judgment of like which one is like better. So actually, if when I'm cleansing stuff, I always do both, right? So we're always doing who wants to surrender into the light, and then who wants to surrender into the void. And there's not even the whole, oh my god, the void's hell. I'm like, yo, I like Shiva. So if you pick Shiva, I'm not gonna judge you. I'm like, yo, I like it too. I like it too. It's so spacious there. So I'm like, go. So anyway, so I really felt that when I meditated into the center, in the center of that like black hole cup energy, I felt like there was just deeper structures that were allowed to be annihilated via that thing, right? So for example, the light protocol is like it's like pushing out what's fucked up to imprint your original energy, whereas the vacuum is more of like sucking it out just because it wants you to have space. So the other one's push, the other one's pull. Do you see how beautiful that is? This is why I want people to like feel less terrified of like meditating in the dark. I feel like also a lot of people, the reason why we have a lot of fear around shadows or around, for example, if you say that, a lot of Tibetan masters spent a lot of times in dark caves, but you go to any horror special in like a high school fair, it's like a bunch of caves. It's like darkness, right? Cave of darkness. And the thing is, the reason why people are usually scared of darkness is because they haven't done their shadow work. Meaning, the thing is, when we deprive ourselves of our physical sensation stuff, we're faced but nothing but ourselves. And the thing is, if we haven't really loved and processed our demons, our weird configurations, they look scary as fuck, right? And this is the reason why people are scared of like caves, ghosts, demons, and stuff like that. And the thing is, that's because you haven't processed your own shit. Yeah, I do want to speak to this because I know that this is like what blocks people from meditating with the void. But the thing is that I do want to say that most of the time when those things manifest for you, so for example, you feel haunted or you feel like you're being chased, right? A lot of the times there is an energy emitting from you and you are producing the illusion of being attacked. Like you're doing, this is half you. You're doing this is your handiwork. This is your craftsmanship. Right? That poltergeist, that demon that's sitting on you so that you don't wake up, that's half you. Okay? That's half you because you didn't clear your own energy, you didn't set up you didn't think you deserved boundaries, right? You didn't command like what energies are welcome. And ergo, it's like enjoying your little festered emotions, right? So the thing is, I feel like, and even then, I really do want to, oh gosh, this is such a nuanced conversation. I hope people get it. Even then, for example, these little imps, right? They're in perfect accordance with the universe. If they didn't look like that, they wouldn't catch your attention. If you didn't feel like they were an enemy, they wouldn't be the right match. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like if you didn't have a proper fear and respect towards them, you wouldn't actually level up. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like the awe with the angels. So what I'm saying is that they're performing a role. Yeah. And the thing is, this is from someone who has cleared vampires, aswangs, imps, a lot of hurt elementals, a lot of hurt gnomes, and just ghosts, right? I'm telling you, I'm really, really telling you, they kind of hate being the bad guy. Sometimes they're tired of being the bad guy. And the thing is, you know how like when someone's like just likes grunge and you immediately think they're like a depressed asshole? And you're like, wow, that's really judgmental of you. So that's kind of like what happens to all of these beings. Because I really do want to speak for like these non-physical entities. Because I feel like they get a lot of bad rap. And the thing is, that's kind of just their casting role though. Yeah? Like, if you're so depressed and you wanna, like, you have, like, a lot of self-harm energy, right? They're just gonna play out their role. You wrote a script and they're just designed to act on it. And then if you drop the energy, they don't need to act like that anymore. Also, if you remember Moana, like, you remember the very angry volcano lady and then you kiss her and respect her and then she becomes really, really nice? That's literally like the plot point of like every fucked up energy. I swear to God. Like I know it sounds so simple and I know it's like such a simple turnaround and I know that people are going to be like, "Oh, that doesn't apply to demons." I'm like, "Yo, that applies to demons." You're just kind of scared to love them. You're kind of scared to see them and listen to them and really see where they're coming from. And the thing is, I understand if you're like not ready for that. It's just that if that's your excuse for like not meditating with like the void or darkness or emptiness, I'm just kind of calling you out in terms of like that quote unquote demon or that thing that's haunting you. It's playing a perfect role for what you are self-generating within yourself. Yeah? So the thing is, when we choose to love these parts, really respect these roles, like, oh wow, I really did play that role of the addict, or I did play that role of the victim, or I did really play that role of the abuser, self-abuser or other people abuser, and really just love yourself and be like, yeah, shit, I understand why you were addicted. Or I understand, like I can see how much pain you were in. That's why you were so abusive, right? And then when you can really, really genuinely say that, like, oh, I see why you're a bully. Or within yourself. Even within other people too. So for example, the bully thing is like, I understand why you were the victim. I understand why understand why that happened. It kind of just unlatches within you. This is more... The thing is, it's so simple that it's really the willingness and the depth to go about this that unravels everything. This is not advanced math. Yeah, this is just a simple turnaround. 1 minus 1 equals 0. If that which you think is a problem is like not a problem, is actually accepted, received, like -1, it becomes 0, it becomes emptiness, it becomes nothingness, it becomes free. Right? So what I'm really trying to gun for you is that this is not complex algebra. It's literally just one step. So it's the unraveling, it's the decoupling of that -1. That inverse is really just what trips people up and people don't have the space for. Yeah, it's like, I don't have the space to forgive them. I don't have the space to love them. I don't have the space to do that. And that's why meditating with space is great. You see how we're going around in circles? But the thing is, when you meditate into the vacuum, the void, right? I talked about Wu Wei, how it's the dance of the opposites, of the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, the night and the day, the enemy and the lover, the catch and the throw, the moon and the sun, the all any kind of duality dance that you could freaking think of, right? And the thing is, with space, like with a lot of like non-dual meditations, your peg is really non-reaction. Like just freaking acceptance, yo. It's just like Yeah, I accept that. It doesn't mean that you're like gonna accept poverty and not do anything about it. What I'm saying is that you accept poverty as an existing truth, and then based on who you are, where you are, you accept poverty, and then depending on where you are, who you are, and what you're about, you can act on it. But there's no denial. There's no, oh, poverty is not me, or poverty is, there's no denial of it. There's an inclusion of it, of like, oh, I understand. Like, I understand, like, all the worst aspects. Like, why would you be so self-deprecating, or self-defeating, or emulating. Is that a word? Emulating. Yeah. Anyway, my point is that what people have a difficult time with creating more spaciousness and more void. Okay. Let me backtrack a little bit. So when you're early into your spiritual awakening or in your healing journey, you're trying to create more space around light. Right? It's like, oh, I'm great. Oh, there's good things about me. Oh, there's like nice qualities about me that I could develop, right? And then you go into shadow work and be like, oh, this is all the shitty shit I did, and then I need to own up to it. Or, oh, these are all the ugly patterns that people do and that I hate and that I don't want to accept is also part of me. Or it's like, I reject and don't think I ever succumb to. I'm better than you. And there's like a superiority and shit. Or like an inferiority, right? Because that's also like a game of difference, right? But once you massage that and have a deeper practice around acceptance of like, I know, I get why you do that. You have the right to do that. I give you space to do that. In the same way that I give myself space to do that. So it's almost like if you're like an atom particle, it's like, oh, there's 95%, 98% empty space. There's enough empty space for your reality to unfold in the way that you're like inventing it to be. And enough space for my reality to unfold. Like everything is very multidimensional. Your version is just as true as mine. Right? I know this is starting to sound really trippy. I hope you guys are following. But the thing is that with your limited consciousness, right? For example, if someone's like running a fear program, they have the license to do that. And we live in a fractal reality where they have the space to do that. And what frees them, remember the kissing of the angry mountain, is that you just love them all the same. You accept them all the same. Because they're the ones who freeze themselves. There's no one to free in a way. Because the only one you're freeing is yourself. Everything else is space and acceptance. Crazy, right? Crazy! It's crazy! Because your inner evangelist martyr savior complex needs to die here. Wow, you thought we were just gonna talk about the void and like just space. Holy shit, I didn't know I was supposed to sacrifice. I didn't know we were gonna kill our inner savior complex, Maria. So, okay, anyway, my point is that when you get into the practice of allowing more space and depth for really true shadow, for really old fears, for really big collective, I would even say drone spells, right? This hypnotism of being right, this hypnotism of needing to be more important, this hypnotism of wanting to validate everybody or like keep everyone quote unquote safe, right? As if we aren't perfectly safe, right? There's like a lot of like hypnosis, yeah, that we wake up from, that we drop. And just in the same way that Rumi says that it's less about working yourself towards love and more about dropping all the things that block you / separate you from love. And then he even says beyond the hill of right doing and wrong doing, I will meet you there. So that's talking about like non-dual shit, right? So the thing is, what I'm trying to get at is that kind of unconditional love is predicated by this much spaciousness, this much allowance. And a lot of people who are very attached to their morality or of being right, holier than thou, will have a lot of trouble with this, because they're like, oh my God, then you're never going to do the right thing. And I'm like, the right thing is dependent on the situation. And ergo, if you're so strict, right? If you're so strict of like, this is always bad. Like, for example, cheating is always bad, right? You, like, in every fucking situation is never, you know, you will crumple yourself instead of expand and include. So imagine like a therapist where it's like you go and confess why you cheated, right? And then they're gonna like sermon you about the morality of that instead of really hearing you out, instead of accepting, oh, okay, you did that, and then being like, okay, where did it come from, right? What? I bet you had like a good reason. Could you tell me about it? Right? Do you see that? Can you hear that? Can you hear that spaciousness? So I'm not telling you that, you know, we're not going to gun for relationships that are authentic and that, you know, people are honest and upfront about like how monogamous you are and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's this space. Yeah? Because the reason why people are so reactive or people feel so attacked or feel so fragile, right? It's because there's no space. We always feel like it's about us. There's no distance, or there's no, how do I say this? We always feel so entangled and mucked up about other people's energies because there's no space, right? It's almost like all that 98% space within all of your cells don't exist or aren't celebrated or aren't brought up to your consciousness or aren't evoked because you don't see / understand the value of that spaciousness, of that I allow, right? And the thing is, it doesn't mean that you're not going to act. It's just that you accept it's happening. So there's this it's a truth. Like you accept that it is true, it is happening. And then you do something, right? So that wu wei, right? It's like a vacuum, right? A spaciousness for yin yang dance to happen. If you put anything outside of that, it's essentially a denial of the infinity, right? You're saying something's not God. You're saying something doesn't exist. You're saying something that's basically existentially false, and that's why you're crying, and that's why that's why you're getting friction or like crazy car brake sounds, because you're essentially trying to fight what is existentially true. You're trying to debate against a wall. You're gonna lose, bro. So my whole point is that this deep spaciousness / acceptance / allowance right, it really feels like an out breath for me, is really what allows you to act from clarity and honestly from like a leveled ground. Because the thing is, a lot of people, when they're faced with like trouble or like the diagnosis is not so good or something bad is happening, we tend to like sugarcoat, right? We tend to like, oh, give it to me gently, right? We tend to not really face the music. And there's this, it's almost like if you have the yin yang symbol, it's like, oh, can it be not like, can I get like the kinder baby version? I want to be babied. I don't want you to give me the truth, right? But the thing is, if we really want to go to our wholeness, to our acceptance, to our spaciousness, to our mastery, you're gonna need to accept all of that. And again, 1 + 1 - 1 = 0. It's very straightforward. It's very straightforward. It's not advanced math. It's just and I accept that it exists and there's space for it. There's space for it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's in your space. There is space maybe a little bit farther away from you, right? But you don't deny its existence, right? So I hope that, like, with this whole podcast, I've already etched out like an arc in terms of like why you would be scared to enter the void and how to create and really appreciate, almost like marinate in this emptiness, in this quality of space. For people who are very biased to somatics, really feel into, like, for example, that quick meditation of sitting into a bowl of gravity. Really feel into how black holes are infinities, right? So if each cell of your body was like a tiny black hole, an infinite black hole, how expansive would you feel? And this is not like imagine yourself as a giant of light and stuff like that. No. This is like fractally inside of you, infinite void portal, infinite galactic black hole that accepts everything, doesn't give a shit about judgment or whatever, right? So if you're very somatic, that's how you're gonna picture it. That's how, and then really notice how your body reacts so that your body remembers that, oh, this is what spaciousness feels like. Yeah. And then try to sit there, try to teach your energy body how to welcome more of it. Think of it like a vitamin. So for example, you need vitamin K, vitamin C, calcium, whatever. Your system, your existential truth is hungry for a bit of nothingness, for a bit of void energy. And when life slaps you into a bit of like existential dread and like meditating into the void, maybe you're wanting to meet this energy. Maybe you're wanting to make love to this energy. Maybe you want to sit with it and really see it's like, wow. It's like, wow, this is so opening. Like, this opens me. This is why I'm not so worried about nihilists or people who have like a strong tendency towards nothingness. Because I know that they're seeking an energy that is also existentially true, right? Maybe not all of them have like the healthiest relationship to it in terms of like enabling space for themselves and other people, or something like Shiva, which is like so full of like love and truth. But I trust their souls. They're doing something. And if you're having any signatures of like this, so for example, you feel like you're less positive and you're more neutral, right? You're less rah cheerleader energy and you're just more of like an empty bowl. I'm like, yo, that's great. That's fine. You're doing wu wei. It's fine. So I feel like a lot of people might get wrong advertising in terms of, if you're in the healing journey, that you're always progressing towards like being a light being, right? You're like a little fairy. But I do want to say that we do need more healing wu wei bowls. We do need more vacuums. We do need more cups that allow for everything to exist, because that means there's more space for everybody. So I'm not even saying that, yo, go do this, it's better. It's more of like, if this is becoming more real for you, this is the language to go about it. And if you need it, go do it. But if this is like a lot for you, or it's like, it's kind of like, Maria, it's not my vibe, I'm like, yeah, go whatever. Do whatever. That's why I said the 5 elements, right? That's why I mentioned all of them, because sometimes your process, or like what your ingredient or your vitamins that you need, is something else, right? And this is going to be the wrap up for all this elemental short series of this podcast. And I do want to say that a lot of people do advocate for like a balance of all of them, like a harmonizing for them. But I do have also noticed that some people do like a hard bias to maybe 1 or 2 because of a certain transition they're going through. So for example, because they're doing this kind of work, they need more of this, right? So I really want you to be very open in terms of like mastering these elements, and really be honest in terms of like what you're needing and where you're at. So I'm not even gonna tell you to balance them. I'm just giving you tools slash perspective. So that's it. If you want any help in terms of like navigating this, and you're like, oh, I want to learn more of this, or I want to have like a private session, do DM me, book me, email me. Do like, subscribe, and send to your friends too if this is like a very enlightening, helpful episode. And otherwise, I'll see you next week. We still got episodes for this season. And ciao.